The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the field. Buy me peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I never go back. So we root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. Play ball!
Well, all right. It's welcome to the Belly Up Major League Baseball Opening Day Eve Super Show, brought to you by SeatGeek. Use promo code Belly Up. I almost said the other one. Use promo code Belly Up at SeatGeek.com or the SeatGeek app. They save so $20 on your first purchase over there at SeatGeek. We are all part of the Belly Up Media Network. Go to BellyUpSports.com for all their great podcasts as well as articles out there. And some guys join us tonight that are a part of the Belly Up Media Network. First off, we're joined off by Vince Stover of the Sports Stove podcast and the host of the Belly Up Fantasy Baseball Show. Then followed up by Aaron Riley, friend of the 1420 podcast. He's been on our show a number of times, so good to have him on the show tonight. But last and certainly not least, Kevin Wilson, senior writer of the Fantasy for Fantasy Sports, Belly Up Fantasy Sports. How you guys doing tonight, boys?
We're doing great.
Excited for tomorrow.
It's opening day eve for us. A lot of people could treat it like a national holiday. I know I'm one of those guys. I got to go into the office for a little bit tomorrow and get the I's dotted and the T's crossed before Easter weekend as well as also. But baseball season starts, and tomorrow morning, Vince, we'll start with you. Tomorrow morning, everybody is 0-0, and they all have a chance.
Yeah, I tell you what, I was bummed out. Milwaukee got rained out already. They pushed their game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so there's 2 games that got postponed, Milwaukee and the Mets, and the Atlanta game as well postponed tomorrow. So they will not play tomorrow, which kind of is a huge bummer going into tomorrow. But I work outside by myself most of the day. I've got my subscription in so I can listen to the radio calls. I'll turn on baseball games as soon as they're on, listen to them all day long while I'm at work. And even though it's not my team, I'll still enjoy it along the way.
Kevin, it's funny that Vince said that. Speaking about the radio, Kevin, you got a couple of years on Aaron at least, anyways, and you must be a radio guy from way back. Listening, because you're a Dodger guy. Listen to Vince Scully on the radio opening days. What's your thought on opening day?
I think you're right, Brandon. It should be a national holiday because I'm excited, and not just because the Dodgers are expected to do some things, but it's the first day. Really, we're discounting what happened last week, but it's the first day of the season. Everything's new. You don't know what you're going to see, what's going to happen. You could see a no-hitter. You could see a triple play. Who knows what? And so there are endless possibilities, and I'm certainly excited to see what's going to happen this baseball season.
It's so much fun, Aaron. Like we thought we were on the show. You did my show last year. We were doing the Major League Baseball tour, and every team starting tomorrow, has a chance. I mean, it might be an outside chance, it might be a slim chance, it might be everything else going, but expectations are always high, and expectations are always at an elevated level. But tomorrow morning, everybody starts off the same way. And like you're a Baltimore Orioles guy from way back. They had a great season last year and expect to do the same thing. But there was days in your short life where the Orioles went into opening day like, oh Christ, we're not going to do anything this year. But this year you got to be thinking this. You know what? We got a chance.
Well, Brent, I'm like a I'm a Philadelphia through and through, but I do like the Orioles. I've so many roots there, family in Maryland. Like I've been to so many games. So I am like split. My heart is kind of split down the middle, but yeah, I mean, it's so crazy. Like that, speaking about the Orioles, the people are picking them to, not so crazy, but people are picking them to win the division where, I mean, like 9 out of 10 years that, you just hope they don't finish dead last. I mean, at the end of the day, like, we can have a discussion on maybe what division's the hardest, but I really do think the AL East is a gauntlet every single year. I mean, your Yankees are in it every single year. the Red Sox have kind of taken a back seat, which I definitely don't hate to see that. But I mean, the Rays with their $50 million payroll are always in the hunt. They have some of the best pitching in baseball, all the time. So it's strange. I mean, on the flip side, the Phillies are one of those teams that got pushed to Friday. So I guess it's kind of cool. You get 2 opening days kind of deal, but the Orioles play the lowly Angels. So not to say I expect them to just go out and kick ass, but I mean, it's we'll see. Opening day to me is like one of the best sports days. Like people can say March Madness and this and that and the third, but opening day there's nothing quite like the fields look amazing. Like it's awesome.
Well, for me, opening day, it's when spring really starts for me. Like a lot of things happen. Like I used to mount spring kicking around for me was when Pebble Beach Pro-Am happened, because you go, it's coming, spring's coming around. But then tomorrow, when the grass is green somehow, some way, because like up here where I am in Western Canada, we got 16 inches of snow last Friday and Saturday, so there ain't no baseball being played up here, and I'm not that far north of Montana, so it's there's no baseball being played here this weekend, anyways. But yeah, it's crazy that the opening day, it's the rite of passage in springtime, and people get that sense of like, okay, it's here now, and we get closer to summer. Kevin, we'll go to you next. Does Major League Baseball find a way to just step on their own toes a lot? They had that quasi soft opening, I guess we could call it, with the 2 games or the 3 games last. Was it 2 with the Padres and the Dodgers had that soft opening that restaurants kind of happen having let's see how this works overseas with 2 teams from the West Coast that don't get a lot of juice on the East Coast anyways. Does Major League Baseball step on their toes marketing wise, and not just this way, but in more ways than not?
I would have to say that they do. They don't, because the NFL is the marketing genius of, modern society. And baseball doesn't do themselves any favors because they're starting the season, like we mentioned, all these games being canceled already, moved and everything else. That's not helping. And so I think these guys maybe starting in Korea might turn things around a little bit because, as you mentioned, these games were, anybody could watch them. It's baseball. And so I don't know if they started in the morning, if that was the greatest thing here of all time, but I enjoyed it because I wake up at 5. Vince and I talked about this, and I turn on and there's baseball, real live baseball at 5 o'clock in the morning, having breakfast. And so I enjoyed that. Didn't enjoy the last game of that series after the Padres just put the hammer on them. But other than that, baseball just needs to market their players, and they've got great players. They've got great young players, and so let the players get out there, play, show them in their environment, and people are going to follow that, I think.
The one thing, Kevin, is that not everybody is old like you and I who gets up at 5 in the morning for breakfast. It's one of those things. Like it's usually people sleep in a little bit.
I gotta get up to work. So,
we all do, but there's some guys who just turn over on a Saturday morning and say, I'm not getting up for this. Like it's one of those things. What's your thought on that, Vince? Can baseball do a little bit better way of trying to connect to the younger audience a little bit and finding a way to get them, because the demographics and people are different? And we'll go to you next, Aaron, because you're a younger demographic than the 3 of us. But Vince, can baseball try to find a way to do things a little bit differently to make opening day tomorrow a bigger thing, because they're going up still against a bit rather lackluster NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I never feel older than talking about how bad baseball is at marketing their things. I just feel like a geezer every time I talk about it. But baseball is right now sitting on a gold mine. You've got the international market with Shohei. You've got these young studs. I mean, Corbin Carroll's amazing. So much fun to watch. Ronald Acuna is still really young, phenomenal baseball player. And you got a bunch of other guys too. You go through this. I mean, Jackson Holiday is going to be a blast.
You got Juan Soto's now the biggest market in baseball, and nobody knows.
Yeah, and you don't hear about it. everybody says, well, baseball's regional. Well, it's only regional because baseball makes it regional. Major League Baseball does a horrible job at promoting. Go back, say the dirty C word, COVID. Go back to COVID. They had an amazing opportunity. They could have been the only thing going in the world, and they still pushed it back further. And then when they did come out and play, they still didn't take advantage of it. I would have put it on network television and just blasted it everywhere. But you got to go, MLB TV, by the way, is ridiculously expensive unless you're a T-Mobile carrier. But then you're watching Bally Sports, which is bankrupt. How does it even exist? How are we watching it? I don't know. All that kind of stuff. Listen, I grew up in a minor league market in Nashville, and I grew up listening to baseball on the radio. To this day, granted, Bob Uecker is so much fun to listen to. I rather listen to baseball on the radio than anything else on the radio. But I am old, and I can survive that. The current day, I don't know, maybe Aaron can give us better feedback on this, but I feel like my kids, they want to see it, and they want to see the stars. They play the video games, and they are the stars on the video games. They want to see it. And listen, we're not spending the money to watch baseball. So when it's on the weekends on Fox, we watch it. I got it on the radio. That being said, I think Major League Baseball does a horrible job at promoting their stars and promoting their product. That we've had some really fun baseball seasons here as of late.
Aaron, like you're the younger demographic here, and what's the talk around the barroom table when you guys are speaking about baseball? Do you, because you're a baseball nerd like the other three of us are here? What's the take of guys your age and around your age about the game of baseball, and what do you think the state's at right now? I don't want to be too negative on Christmas Eve for us, but let's just be brutally honest. What do people who aren't the biggest baseball fans, what do they think of the great game of baseball?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, I grew up playing. I think that's a lot of the love I still have for it. I grew up playing it. It was the only sport I consistently played, all the way up. And it was just there was nothing like getting to the field, early in the morning, there's dew on the grass, you're just throwing the ball. There's just something to that. And if you've never played it, I will give people the benefit of the doubt. It's not, even as somebody that played it, it's not the most exciting sport to watch. You can argue football is more exciting, and for most people, I guess they would probably say yes. I have a couple close friends that are
Hockey.
Pretty well, hockey, especially playoff hockey too.
Yeah.
That's 1,000 miles an hour in baseball. Baseball is still a standstill sport until the ball's in play type of deal. But I have a close friend who's a diehard baseball fan, and he's, kind of thinks the way I do. But outside of that, it's a lot of my friends, we'll be at the bar, we'll be at a bar or restaurant watching games, and they're on their phones more than they're paying attention to the game, which I don't necessarily think that's a bad for me to enjoy it. Football can be oh my God, I have a headache by halftime. It's there's too much going on. Where baseball, it's I can kind of watch it at a more leisurely pace. I mean, it's during the summer, during the best weather of the year, in my opinion. So there's a give and take to how people perceive the game of baseball. I think this whole now you're kind of pushing against the grain, these older style people that don't want to see bat flips. They don't want to see, the home run celebrations in the dugout. I think you kind of need some of that, because without any of that, you are going to lose. My generation still, I don't think they're catching on to baseball as much as I want them to, but that's coming from a biased standpoint. So
I'm glad you brought that up, because in 2015, everybody knows the Bautista. That's 9 years ago already. Holy, how time flies! The Bautista home run for the bat flip with the Blue Jays in 2015. And at first, because I'm a baseball guy, umpire, I'm a traditionalist. It's when you hit something, run, like the Bull Durham speech, run. You know. Dirty word here. And then so the guy would run, and I was that way. And when that Bautista bat flip happened, I hated it. I was geez, will you just run, man? Enough. But then you look back and you go, you know what? the way that inning shaped up, you guys remember the Russell Martin error and everything else that happened. And there was the hit and on and on. The crowd was throwing the beer onto the field and gave Canadians a bad name for 25 minutes and everything else. But it's, at first I was against it, but then I thought, you know what? The emotion of that moment, why not? Like, that was so big. And Kevin, I want you to speak on that. Like, that was so big and so the moment, and like the emotion came out of Bautista, and it flipped out, and it's the bat flip heard around the world that night. And to me, baseball, you don't need to do it every time you hit one, because there's a chance you're not going to hit one every at bat. In fact, you know what? You can go 1 for 4 and strike out 3 times. It's usually the way it works out nowadays. How baseball is, how the way the game is played. So you don't need to be bat flipping all the time. But when the emotion comes out, Kevin, I don't think that's a bad thing for the sport.
Within reason. And I think part of baseball's problem too is they've got the unwritten rules of baseball, which nobody seems to know what they are until the rule is broken. And so, then you've got, when he flipped his bat, it was kind of cool when I saw, but it wasn't until the next year when he got popped at second base.
Rufy Odor got him, old Rufy.
That's right.
Yeah.
Captain Odor nailed him at second, and
solid punch too. Ooh.
It wasn't any of that. I'm going to hide behind umpires, any of that. And so, I think some emotion can be good, but then you got guys that are throwing at each other, and sometimes that gets out of control. So, we've got to have emotion. I like that, and I think baseball has done some nice things about trying to speed up the game. I don't have an issue with that, and the pitch clock, I never had an issue with that. I wish they'd take that runner on a ghost runner and completely just pour concrete over that and bury it in center. Just because I don't understand it to this day. But other than that, let some emotions be in the game, because I'm emotional, and I'm the oldest guy here. But when I see a great play, I'm out of my chair. It's like, So emotion's fine. You just got to make sure that you don't get teams out of control. Then you got guys running from the bullpen and everything else, and that's kind of ridiculous. But emotion's fine.
Vince, you got kids, and they get it, like they all, like every kid does it now. I'm around kids with baseball, and they pump their jerseys and flex their whatever, and they weigh 120 pounds. Like, way to go, man! Whatever. It's one of those things. So, but your kids must like that part of the game a little bit when they show some emotion, and no matter what games are, if it's a basketball, it's just a different way that things are done now. And I don't think, like I agree with you, Kevin, not every time, but sometimes, you did something cool, you should be able to pat yourself in the back, because a pat in the back is only about 3 feet from a kick in the ass, and you get a lot more kicks in the ass in life than a pat in the back.
Yeah, so that's what my kids mimic, is the emotion. We used to mimic, form and things like that. They mimic celebrations. That's kind of what they do. Now, I coach high school basketball, and so I'm around the emotions of young people. And then on Mondays, I interview college athletes, and I will tell you that interviewing college athletes has changed the way I view the younger society. Just because now I feel so happy for them when they succeed, and so when I see them hit a home run. The day after, I had a guy on Monday night, and he hadn't hit a home run yet this season. And I said, what do you want to do the rest of the season? What do you want to prove? And he's like, man, I really want to hit a home run. And he goes out Tuesday night, cranks a home run. And the college tags me on their social media, hey, there it was, it's there.
There you go.
And I'm just sitting here. I'm so excited for him that I'm emotional about it too. And I'm excited. I'm cheering. He's ecstatic. The teams cheer. I think where I get to the point where I don't like too much emotion is when I feel like sportsmanship goes out the window. A stare down, a bat flip, and then you go on, I'm cool with. It's when it gets a little gaudy, a little over the top. And now I feel like, okay, now it's just bad sportsmanship. I'm a sucker for good sportsmanship. And, and so that's the only time it bothers me is when I feel like, okay, it went too long. It was a little too much, whatever it may be. But I love a good stare down or a good bat flip. I'm all for it.
I get a kick out of guys who get mad at when a guy hits a home run and flips his bat. Here's an idea: don't give up that pitch. They give up the home run. Throw a better pitch. Like it's actually right there because batters very rarely win that duel, right? Like not many guys hit 300 anymore. Like let alone 270. So when a guy actually makes contact and gets one, like, you know what, I'm going to go out there and swing my dick a little bit. Like it's not every time, but like it's one of those things. Guys, let's get off of that. And then, Kevin, you touched on it a little bit earlier on. I wasn't going to bring it up, but it's the elephant in the room. No matter where you go, across sports radio, whether there would be a baseball show or just a sports show in general. I go watch a few guys up here in Canada, and they're mainly a hockey show. They're 99% a hockey show. But of course, I'm talking the Shohei Gate, or whatever you want to call it, Shohei Ohtani. The story came out last Thursday. It's been a week ago now, and he came out on, I think it was on Monday afternoon, and didn't really say much. And he has a prepared statement with nobody in front of him, nobody to ask him questions. He said what he said, and then see you later. I'm not pointing fingers because I don't know, and like I don't think we'll ever know. But just the way this thing is played out, since day one, I think it was last Thursday when it first came out to now, the story kind of got a little bit goofy. Kevin, I'll let you start because you're a Dodgers guy. The story got goofy from the start. It was like the money was stolen. Then he lent the money. Then the money was gone. And this guy's fired. And then the interpreter, I can't remember his name. I don't really care. So I don't think we'll ever hear from that guy again. But the story got goofy, Kevin. Like if Ohtani would have just said, I gave him money because I didn't know the rules, or money just happened, whatever it was, I don't think anybody would have batted an eye. But now there's speculation, and whenever there's speculation, the conspiracy theories come out. Kevin, what's your thoughts on, and take your fandom away from it for first, of the Dodgers? I want to hear what your thoughts are on the Ohtani gate, we'll call it, and what your thoughts are on that.
Well, my thought was originally that and Vince and I talked about this also. It's hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that somebody could take $4.5 million and somebody's not knowing it. And then I was seeing it that it was explained that this guy was not just somebody off the street. He's been with him for years. He's trusted this guy, and
literally the only guy he talks to during a game.
That's right.
Like
that's right. So I think you hear about athletes all the time that let people have access to their accounts, and you're like, what are you doing? And so I think that's might be what a little bit is happening here. And one thing that's working against Ohtani is people, even though he's in the spotlight, people do not know Ohtani. He's very private. I mean, he got married. Nobody even knew he was dating anybody or anything else. And so he's very buttoned up. So nobody knows about him. So we can't know for sure, I don't think, what exactly happened here. The thing that was really getting me was when you start to hear about how Ohtani and Pete Rose are in the same sentence. That was completely and utterly ridiculous to me. There's no comparison, I don't think, at all here.
we don't know right now. Kevin, we don't know as of this very moment. We don't know.
But people went there immediately saying Ohtani should be suspended, and everything else that needs to be thrown out of the game and blah, 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 blah. And if he doing it, then Pete Rose should be, put in the Hall of Fame. Just stop that, please. Can we please stop the madness with that? And we just have to let this kind of play out a little bit and just see what the feds, because the feds are involved. If it was just baseball, they'd probably just say, we don't want to talk about this because he's Ohtani's in LA now and Dodgers and so on and so forth. But the feds are involved. They don't care about any of that. So let the feds do what they do and see where this ends up.
Aaron, if he was the starting second baseman for the Baltimore Orioles, this is a thought. I actually no, it's not even a thought. I think this is a guarantee. This might be a 14-20 guaranteed from on March the 27th, 2024. If he was a starting shortstop or second baseman for the Baltimore Orioles, whoever that might be this week, I guarantee you he would not be starting. He would not be playing baseball tomorrow. I guarantee it. He'd be under investigation. I guarantee that one. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, outside of like, I mean, what teams you think? I mean, obviously the Dodgers. Like, if he was a New York Yankee, what would this be even bigger? You know what I mean? Like, I probably, because it's the Yankees are, whether you love it or hate it. What's that?
They're not very good,
but they're the cover of it. Like, they're the top thing in baseball. Like, they're must see TV, no matter if they're good, bad, or indifferent. Like, it's the Yankees. It's a big deal. So, I mean, Dodgers are, probably the runner up to the Yankees as far as brand image, likeness, all that type of thing. They're not that far off at all. So yeah, I mean, if he played for the Florida Marlins, like if he played for even your Brewers there, Vince, I mean, it would be probably a whole different dynamic to this. And I was talking to a couple people on a podcast the other day about this, and the awful thing about this, because we already mentioned how baseball doesn't market itself well, is like, of course, there's a black cloud already going into the season. Like, it's just, no matter what, there has to be a negative. Like, it could be opening day, but now there's this dynamic to it. So, I mean, yeah, it gets some buzz, but is it the right type of buzz? I would probably say obviously no. It's just like, where do they just sweep this under the rug and continue on and just keep on trucking and pretend like, maybe they give him a length, a pretty good like fine. I don't even see a suspension. I just don't. I don't know if they give him a suspension. Like, I'm not sure where this goes by the end of the investigation.
Vince, thoughts on that?
Yeah, listen. The thing that I've found the most interesting out of all the Shohei news was Pete Rose coming out and saying, "Man, I wish I had an interpreter." and listen,
Pete needs to go away to whatever island and just
put him in the Hall of Fame and he'll shut up. But that being said, listen, I think he's Shohei Ohtani. He's the most well-known baseball player currently in Major League Baseball. He is he's not American, so they're getting all this money coming in and revenue coming in from outside of the states. Nothing's going to happen to Shohei. They're going to be able to play this off one way or the other, whether it all just falls on the interpreter, whether eventually they just say, you know what, it was just a big mistake. It's just going to be swept under the rug, and life's going to move on. I mean, there's going to be a fall guy, and maybe it is the interpreter ultimately. But at the end of the day, in 2 weeks from now, we're not going to talk about it anymore. Baseball is going to bury it. And I mean, unless just some crazy evidence comes out that Shohei, listen, his past teammates have all said he could care less about any other sport. He's not out there betting on other sports. So,
that might make it actually worse, because all of a sudden, as you said, betting on baseball, that's even worse.
Even worse, for sure. Yeah. So I think it goes away. I think it goes away quietly. And I think, again, in a couple of weeks, we're talking about something completely different. Maybe the Dodgers go out and sign Trevor Bauer just to get the news cycle saying something different.
Why not just do something ridiculous like that? But and that's the good thing, not the good thing, but that's the thing about the world we live in now,
right?
Is that we're always about 20 seconds away from someone else doing something really stupid, going up on social media and somebody in their basement talking about it like we are today. So it's one of those things that just kind of, when a quasi scandal becomes a scandal, then it's not a scandal anymore, because there's something that comes out a little bit bigger, and that's just the way thing goes. Let's get off that Ohtani thing here. All three of your guys' teams, and mine didn't make the playoffs last year. All three of your teams made some moves over the offseason. Vince, we'll start with you. One I know you're not too happy with the manager going for different pastures. I don't say greener pastures. I think they're different pastures. I know you voiced on your show a few times, and I've read some of your stuff. You voiced your displeasure on Craig Counsell Council, wearing a different hat, going to Chicago and hopefully doing something with them. What's your take on are your Brewers going to be as good this year, and are they a playoff team?
All right. So, man, there's so much to talk about here. So let me keep it as quick as I can. First of all, I've got to say about Craig Counsell. Wearing a different hat's not the problem. Wearing a Cubs hat is the problem. Craig Counsell was born and raised in Milwaukee, played in Milwaukee, managed in Milwaukee. He knows how hated the Cubs are in Milwaukee. And as I've said on my show many, many times, the baseball gods will judge Craig Counsell this year and the Cubs. Lightning will strike. I feel bad for the players that are going to be involved in it. The baseball gods will not stand for this backstabbing of Craig Counsell. That being said, the Brewers will not be as good as they were last year, not because of Craig Counsell, although he's a very good manager. But their pitching is just not good. They lose Burns to Baltimore. They traded him off because he was not going to resign there. And that's their fault. They lowballed him last year, and he's like, enough of this. So he was off. That being said, Woodruff gets hurt, so he's out for the year. He's not going to play at all this year. Freddie Peralta, who was their number 3 guy, is now their ace, and that's not great. They've got old guys. Joe Ross is in the rotation. It's just not going to be good. That being said, I think they're still going to be an entertaining team, and the division isn't great. So they have potential to still be in the 80s range of wins, which will be down from last year. I think they can make the playoffs, but I think that's at this point a little bit of a long shot. But their offense should be good, and they've got some young guys playing now too. So I think overall they'll be entertaining, but they won't be as good as last year.
That's tough. That's tough for Brewers fans because you lick the jar once every few years and you get something going on, and then it goes away for a duration, and you rebuild and everything else. And there's things going on with the ballpark there and stuff going on. It's got to be a little bit tough that they licked it close, and then they lost in the wild card round of the Arizona Diamondbacks. Came out of nowhere last year. Like, what the heck was that? But
the expectation in Milwaukee is different than most places. While people want to win and want the team to do more things and sign more players and all this kind of stuff, they also at the same time know it's not going to happen. So it's as disappointing as it is. It's not as heartbreaking as, say, Red Sox fans who are watching their team just continue to flush seasons down the toilet. Milwaukee, at least kind of in the back of their minds, know it's going to happen. We're gonna tank at some point.
That's why this weekend is so important. Go 2-1 or 3-0. Look, and that's what it is. Ken, we'll go to you. Your Dodgers have very high expectations. Look, Kurt, I think because I'm an old Dodger guy from way back. The Lethbridge Dodgers had their Pioneer League team was here in Lethbridge back in the really early 80s. That's dating myself a little bit. Aaron wasn't even a twinkle in his daddy's eye back then. But so I've been a Dodger guy for a long time over at Spitz Stadium, Henderson Stadium back then. Steve Sachs was playing there. And the expectations of the Dodgers are obviously very high. They only have the three-quarter World Series in the last, 32 years that they won in 2020. You want to call it a full World Series, that's up for debate, but it's one of those things. It's Dave, my co-host, he calls it 3. I think he calls it 5/8 or half sometimes when it depends, depending on his mood. But the Dodgers' expectations are probably higher than ever with the signing of Ohtani and Yashimoto, who hasn't got off to a great start in spring training. I know spring training means absolutely nothing in the big picture, but our concerns a little bit high in Dodger land with the Yamamoto's not great spring, and then if the Ohtani stuff can roll into the season, and then Mookie Betts at shortstop, and on it goes. If the Dodgers don't win this year, then when? Because they've been once again licking the jar for a long time.
That's true because they've made the playoffs in 14 straight years. 13 of those they won the division. So they're successful by any measure, but they've gone short except for the 5/8 as you mentioned. But the pressure's on them, no question. And it's interesting to me because what has happened in the NL West in the past couple of weeks is was it yesterday or was it? Yeah, I think it was yesterday. Jordan Montgomery goes to the Arizona Diamondbacks. Last night. Okay, so now they've got two excellent starters at the top of their rotation. The Giants signed Snell. They've got two excellent starters at the top of their rotation. We saw what the Padres can do with their offense. So it's not like it's going to be a walk in the park for the Dodgers. I still think they've got the best team. Vince and I talked about Mr. Yamamoto, and the thing that I didn't like about him, giving up the runs, the best pitchers do that. But I didn't like how he looked on the mound. His expressions, he looked like he was shocked. He was shell-shocked out there, kind of like, you're in a minefield, and you don't know what you're.
He looked like me in high school. Trust me, I was one of those things.
Okay, right? He looks like
whiplash balls going over the fence on me all the time.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Brent. You're in high school and you're going up to the door for your very first, take your first girl out, right? And you're standing there and you've got this deer in the headlights look. You don't know what's going to answer the door. You just don't know. And so that's the kind of look he had, and I'm concerned about that because pitchers, like I said, give up runs. It happens. But he just looked like he had no idea what he was doing out there. So I think he can get that together, but that is a concern to me. Tyler Glasnow, on the other hand,
I like him a lot.
He looked, and Vince and I talked about this as well. A pitcher that has 120 innings as his cap is in your ace could be an issue, but he's looked good in spring. He looked good against the Padres. He didn't give up 15 runs, so we got that going on for him. So if the Dodgers, don't make the playoffs, let's just say, that, and everybody needs to be fired, and they need to start all over again because
you just signed a guy to $700 million, man. You can't start over.
$700 million, and the other
she's
dude's
too late to turn back now.
Million. So, they're going to make the playoffs unless something seriously goes sideways. But I'm not ready to predict that the Dodgers are going to win it all because there are just too many good teams out there. And, there's just too many good teams. And I'm a Dodger guy. I want them to win. I want them to win a championship because, except for 2000, which was in Texas, and I got to go see him play. So that was pretty cool. But
I wasn't allowed anywhere near that border, let alone to cross it back then. So it's one of those things.
Okay.
So, all right, well, this is how it is.
So
and I'm not being political. I'm just saying that's what it was. I'm not being anything. I'm just.
It might suck a little bit because if the Dodgers win, they were expected to win, and then guys like me would be sitting there and being accused. Well, you're a Dodger bandwagon dude, even though I've been a Dodger guy since I was in high school. You can imagine how long ago that was. But I'm not confident in them winning, okay? Because there are too many variables and everything else. But if they don't win, I'll be certainly disappointed.
When you're waiting for a 35, 36, 37-year-old, whatever Clayton Kershaw is, to come back to be to be a middle guy, to be one of your top 3-4 guys, there's some doubts, right?
Yeah.
There is some doubts there.
If you remember, he was the guy who got one out against the Arizona Diamondbacks.
And that's too bad you bring that up. It's too bad he gets brought up that way because he's such a great pitcher.
He is.
But everybody will always remember Clayton Kershaw for his playoff failures.
Well, he's got to.
But that's where legends are made. Right?
That's right. He's got to, claim it. It happened. He, in 2017, the Dodgers gave him the lead a couple of times in that Game 5, and he failed every single time. So, if it was Sandy Koufax, would that have happened? Probably not.
And Koufax had half the career, a third of the career that Kershaw had.
Right.
If you put it in perspective. And then if you go to, like, if you talk to people our vintage and around this time, Oral Hershiser's a legend for what he did in '88.
Right. Yeah.
Kershaw hasn't done a thing in people's eyes.
No. The Dodgers won in 1988.
And Kershaw's 10 times the pitcher that Hershiser ever thought he could be.
That's right. We could talk about the home run.
I think we just had 90 people
and all that. But they won because of Oral Hershiser, and that's the end of that. But he hasn't been that ever in the playoffs.
Aaron, your Baltimore Orioles, they had a resurgence last year, 100 wins. I don't think they'll get to 100 this year. I think the Blue Jays are going to have a better season. The Yankees are going to have a better season. But your Baltimore Orioles had themselves a year last year that nobody saw coming. What's the thoughts other than building a new bridge out there in Baltimore this year? Ooh, Jesus, that was a bit of a wreck.
What a spectacle that was.
I couldn't believe it. Like I've seen some stuff in my that's like just the slow mo. I don't know how it got to that. I'm an idiot. That's how it got to this point. But yeah, let's forget about the bridge thing. I'm sorry. No, let's.
Yeah.
There's no
Let's
bridge.
move on.
Anyways,
People die.
moving on, as they say on Craft Root Sports. What's your thoughts of the Baltimore Orioles this year? And where are they a 95 win team? Are they a 90 win team? Do they have a bunch of guys the sophomore slump? Is there just what do you think about the Orioles this year?
I mean, it's weird, like going into a season with the expectations they have. I honestly, it's back to the Buck Showalter days where, they did win the AL East, and, that year they fell apart against Kansas City, and then Kansas City goes on and wins their World Series. That's as long. I mean, we're going on. I was graduating high school back like 2014, so the it's all right. I work with people that were born after the Eagles were in the Super Bowl, to give you perspective, in 04. So like now I'm like, I feel old already. So, but no, I don't know how to. I mean, I obviously, like, Vince can speak to, like, Corbin Burns is a number one. Yeah. It's just like the fact they have new ownership is quite exciting. Like, it's one of those things, like their former owner who just passed away. It wasn't like, I think the people of Baltimore are a little bit more classy than the people of Philadelphia, in the fact that, like, that everybody was sending their condolences, but it was an agreement. Like, the whole thing came down to when Peter Angelos passes away, the rest of the team, like the 60% of the ownership stake that they didn't have would then get transferred over to their new ownership. And it was like, it was heartfelt. Everybody's like, thanks for what you did. But he really didn't do much. I mean, let's put it in perspective, as far as he didn't want to spend a penny more than he thought was reasonable. I mean, Camden Yards is a beautiful ballpark, but they have some, like, they don't update their audio systems, and everybody complains about that. Like, they don't spend a penny, where, like, the Phillies are kind of the opposite. Like, now they are, like, they're top five in payroll every year. They're going out and getting a Trey Turner. They go out and get a Castellanos, Kyle Schwarber, JT Realmuto, like Bryce Harper. None of these guys are homegrown. And growing up like a diehard Phillies fan, it kind of hurts me a little bit in that aspect, because I am about the homegrown products. Like, being a Braves fan, I'm sure those people love the fact that almost all those guys were elevated through the farm system. But I mean, for the Orioles, I don't know. I still think I do think they're a playoff team. I'm kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum with the Blue Jays of you. I still think they're not going to be that great. I just don't trust them to fully put it together again, for whatever reason. I think the Yankees, as long as Judge stays healthy, I mean, we'll see how long Cole's out for. That's kind of a big one right there. I do like the fact, well, I don't like it because I don't like the Yankees, but I like in the fact that I think Stroman will do good things for you guys. But
I don't like him. But he pitched well the other day.
He can pitch. I don't like. I mean, as a person, he's probably another Josh Donaldson to deal with. But Nestor Cortez is the wild card to me. I mean, Rodon and Cortez are the wild card, because if both of them are, above 4.5 ERA all year, it might be very difficult for the Yankees to be, winning that division. But I still, at the end of the day, I will always pat the Rays on the back, because until they fall off, they're still going to be, to me, a threat every single year. I mean, the Orioles and Rays were, neck and neck all year long, especially coming down the stretch. There was a series where the Orioles took 2 out of 3 than they needed to, basically, to win that division. So, but I am picking the Phillies to come out of the National League. I think they are going to go to the World Series. I don't know if they're going to win it, but I really think it's going to be Phillies-Dodgers in the NLDS, and I think the Phillies win that. And then in the American League, I mean, we can have that discussion later. But I don't think the Orioles go. But I don't know. I don't think any team in the AL East goes this year. But that's no surprise. I mean, none of them have in quite some time. So
The Yankees are going to improve from last season by about 6 wins, and that'll be it. They're just not. They're just not. That's my opinion. Like I'm hard on them because I'm realistic. They got Soto, but they still can't pitch.
Hey,
Right?
you got Trent Grisham, which is going to at least turn your
no.
season around. Brent, I want to ask you though, in regards to the Yankees, Garrett Cole. There is a lot of question marks around. When's he? 2 months at least right now. I put the over under at 10 games that Garrett Cole pitches this season. So I think he ends up having surgery before it's all said and done. You're a Yankees fan. Like, how do you feel about Garrett Cole, and how confident are you he's actually going to contribute this year?
He won't contribute at all, I don't think. Like, because that you got a $40 million plus arm right there, right? So, and the problem is that they're going to want to force him back because you're losing your window, right? Because the Judge isn't getting any younger, and so now you have a situation where Cole's not getting any younger. They're going to say, we got to win. We just signed this guy to 100 and whatever million, and this guy to 100 million, and then we got Soto here for 1 year, so we got to make sure we take advantage of that. But we got crap over here and crap over here, and our fourth and fifth starters aren't that good. They overpaid for like Judge is worth that much money in New York. Other places, I don't think he was worth that much money. It was a marketing thing. Cole, I thought they overpaid for because I think starting pitching is going to see a decline. We already saw it with Snell and Montgomery because guys are hired guns now. You have a lot of pitchers who, because everybody strikes everybody out now. Everybody throws 100. And so I think they overpaid for you got the first 4 years out of Cole or whatever it's been. I thought it was great, but what did you do? Nothing. Like literally nothing. So I think the Yankees are in big trouble moving forward. And I don't think they're going to get any bang for their buck out of Garrett Cole this year or next year. And I could say once your elbow goes, Tommy John, it takes a long time. And they have 4 years on the back end of that deal after he comes back that they got to pay for.
Yeah.
And then what? Like not everybody's bionic. Like Verlander comes back and Scherzer came back.
Verlander's not a good example right now because he's not healthy either.
But he got a few years after one of those. Like not everybody can come back after Tommy John because who's that character who pitched for the Yankees? Then he went to Boston and he's had 3 or 4 Tommy Johns. What's his name? Slipped my mind right now. But
not Kluber. No, not Kluber. He was just
I'll think about it, and I'll think about it at 3:00 in the morning, probably tonight when I'll think about it. But it's I think that the Yankees that they overpaid for Cole, and now the way pitching staffs are built now, because you're only getting 5-6 innings out of guys max, and wins don't matter anymore. It's just out eaters, and that's all pitching is now. And I think starting pitchings, they're really going to find out that, you know what, that those $40 million payrolls aren't going to be around anymore.
Right.
That's my thoughts, anyways. Anyways, guys, let's move on to some fun stuff here. Now that we talk about doom and gloom for the Yankees, I thought you guys would get into that a lot sooner because that's usually the way it is when people talk baseball with me. But let's get into some fun stuff. Kevin, we'll start with you because your memory goes back a little bit further than ours does.
Hopefully.
Who was your favorite baseball player and who got you into the game of baseball? The one guy that you thought, you know what, this is pretty cool. And I want like a baseball card or something, or watching on NBC Game of the Week, because that's all we used to have back then, was the one game was on TV up here in Canada. I didn't have cable TV back until about 1985, I think it was, but one of those things. So who was your guy growing up that you're like, this is the guy?
Well, my guy, not surprisingly, was a Dodger, and that's first baseman Steve Garvey. And he was the player that you could depend on. He knew he was going to be there every single day. He was Cal Ripken before Cal Ripken was Cal Ripken. And the only reason why he, got his streak broken was because he busted his thumb at a play at the plate. But so you knew he was going to be in the lineup. He had a nice swing. He was. And I must admit that years after the fact, he wasn't Mr. Clean like he portrayed himself to be back then. But he was a guy that looked like he played the game right, he lived right, and and if I could have a number, it would be 6 because I just love myself some Steve Garvey. He had big hits. They got to the playoffs. He had big hits. So I really liked Steve Garvey.
Yeah, it's funny, Steve Garvey. Be careful. Yeah, one of those things like, oh, jeez. I mean, I don't care. Like, it's this many years later. It's not whatever. But Garvey was a great player. And then he went to San Diego and had a good career. Like, he had a really good. He had actually, you know what? Steve Garvey had a great career. A great career. There's no getting around that. He was a great player.
He had this thing where it was his success was 300 batting average, 200 hits, 100 RBIs. If he hit that, then he did his job.
Are you going to see guys? I'll ask all three of you guys. Are you going to see guys hit 300 much anymore, or is 300 just who cares?
Well, apparently, if you hit over 300, you get sent down to the minors, Jackson Holiday. So I don't know. No, you're not going to see a lot of 300s.
There was only 10 guys in all of Major League Baseball, something like that last year, 11, something like that. Some
I really thought when they instituted banning the shift, like you would see the averages spike back up, and you really don't like. I don't quite get it. I mean, I know everybody's looking at how the bat travels, and everybody's trying to hit home run and everything like that. But I mean, if you give me a lineup with 3 or 4 guys that can hit almost 300. And then just a couple guys with some power. Like I watch Kyle Schwarber all the time on the Phillies, and people love that guy. And I'm like, I almost can't stand it. He hits $180, and like, yeah, he might give you a home run here and there.
As
but
Kevin said in the Belly Up draft show fantasy, he's going to hit 40 home runs. He's going to strike out 106 times.
Yeah, like
he might strike out 106 times by the All-Star break.
and the thing with him that like really irritates me is like, yeah, I get it. These guys are going to make millions regardless. But if you're making that much money, like don't strike out looking as much as you do. Like if you're fooled that much, like you need to be watching more tape. And like, I know the guy can go on he'll go on 2 weeks spurts where he's hitting 10 home runs in 2 weeks. Like it's insane. But then he strikes out looking, 6 out of 10 at bats. And I'm like, how does that stuff like that? So long story short, give me a guy like, that can hit 280 and maybe 10 to 15 home runs, but he's walking all the time, which Schwarber does walk a good bit. I'll give him that. For as many times as he strikes out, he walks a lot. But this whole like hitting 180 and then he'll give you 35 bombs, like or 45 or 50. Those type of players, I'm like, I see that batting average and it makes me sick to my stomach. Like you're under 200, you're under the Mendoza.
Crazy how this changes in the last 10 years. How batting averages doesn't even matter anymore. It's crazy. Vince, who was your guy growing up that you this guy is the one?
So I didn't have the one necessarily. So my mom's a Reds fan. My dad's a Giants fan. So for me, Barry Larkin was my favorite player.
Good player. Great player.
Loved Barry Larkin. Chris Sobo caught my eye because he had the glasses. I thought those were kind of cool. And Will Smith playing first base in San Francisco was a fun guy to cheer for too. But then Tony Gwynn. Man, he had that World Series where he was just so. Oh no, I'm sorry, Kirby Puckett. Sorry, wrong, short, larger guy. Kirby Puckett caught my eye in a World Series as well.
87,
yeah, and it was just fun to watch. So as a kid, though, Barry Larkin was the guy that if I was out in the yard playing baseball by myself, I was always Barry Larkin.
Larkin's Larkin's downfall in fandom was there was so many guys like Ozzie Smith was just a better defender,
right?
And so there was just guys that were just above because Cincinnati wasn't relevant. They won the World Series in what was it 1989 or 90 whatever it was. Was it 1990? Yeah, and then big upset against Oakland, but like Larkin was just that guy. But there was other guys that were just above him, and then once again, Major League Baseball they didn't market it back then. They don't market it now. But Larkin was a great player because even on the Nike shoes thing, that Larkin was down on the totem pole there. One of those things with him. Aaron, who was your guy?
So I had to say one is a little tough. I mean, I idolized Chase Utley a lot growing up because he was not that big, but he had power and like. Me growing up, I always wanted power, and I just didn't have it. Like it just wasn't in the cards for me. It's probably technique more than anything. But but like, I played a lot of second base, so watching him play and just being able to hit 30 home runs, and he hit for a good average back then. And then another player was Adam Jones on the Orioles for a long time because he could just go get them. Like he could track the ball really well. I mean, he threw a ton of guys out all the time. Pretty good hitter. I mean, he struck out like a million times too, and he couldn't lay off a curveball that was 4 feet off the plate. But there's those two players stood out to me. I mean, a lot of guys over the years, but those were I always wanted, like, third base was like that's my dream. So I watch Alec Boehm on the Phillies now, and I'm like, man, he's got it all. He's 6'5". He's a third baseman. Like, that's, if I could be like that, my life would be complete. But that's.
I umpire in a summer wood bat league up here in Western Canada, and I like third basemen. They're gritty. Still, like a third baseman still, even when they're 19, 20, 21 years old in college, they're still gritty. They come up with dirty pants, and they're not pretty boys. Like I still like me a good third baseman.
That was my favorite position by a landslide, and like the ball would get to you right away. I mean,
the thing I like about a third baseman is if they miss when they get old, their coach don't get mad at them because they know it's hard. Like, so it just goes. It's too hard. It goes by. It's fun.
And playing middle infield, like, your footwork around the bag has to be so good, and I could, like, that was something I always struggled with. So I was like, all right, third base, I don't have to worry about, I just got to throw it to the second baseman to get the double play going. So
yeah,
keep me out on third base, I'll be all right.
Yeah, just throw it, hope for the best, guys. Like going to a Major League Baseball game or a minor league game or a summer wood bat league or a college game, it's always great. It's always a fun time, and you can sit in the stands and you can talk with the person next to you, and just have a relaxing day, have a beer, have some peanuts, have whatever you want to do, or popcorn or whatever it might be, and you don't really got to pay attention a whole bunch until you hear the crack of the bat and everything else, and then but there's always a moment at a game, whether it be, like I said, at a college game or a major league game. Vince, we'll start with you. Do you have a memory from a game that sticks out in your head? It might have been on a Tuesday afternoon in June, that the game meant absolutely nothing to even the guys on the field. That one that you remember the most, go, you know what, that was pretty cool, and I'm glad I was there.
When I was a kid, my dad, he used sports as ministry. And so he had met a baseball player and minor league baseball player in New Orleans. And we got to know him a little bit, went to lunch with him. He was in Nashville playing. And he told me, we were talking the day before the game, and he said, if I break my bat, he said, you come down to the dugout and I'll give it to you. And so we went to the game that night in Nashville. Sure enough, he swings, runs down to first, and my dad said he broke his bat. So he's like, go down there. So I go down to the dugout. Sure enough, he sees me standing there at the end of the dugout, comes over, hands me this bat. I'm a kid. It's like, at first you're like, it's a broken bat. What are you going to do with a broken bat?
There's that too, yeah.
But it's something you never forget too, that in my eyes, he was a AAA baseball player from the New Orleans Zephyrs, and no one knows who he is. He never made it to the majors or anything. But for me, I'll never forget the opportunity to go down, grab this bat, walking up the stands. Everybody, all the other kids are jealous of you because you got this bat that you're just given to you out of the dugout and everything. For me, minor league baseball was a great childhood memory all the way around. But that was pretty cool just to have that experience.
Yeah, you go to a park and something like that happens because you think these guys are. You look up because you're just little, and you look up at these guys and they're larger in life. Like, holy cow! And you think they're all making billions of dollars, like, and they're making 48 bucks a day, one of those deals, right? You don't know, and you hope that, and you see them sometimes on TV. It's unbelievable, and how close you can get at minor league parks to the players. It's huge. Kevin, what do you got? Who's your what's your memory at a ballpark, major league, minor leagues, college, whatever it might be?
All right, so I'm going to go with because you mentioned about in the Pioneer Leagues and all that stuff, and the Dodgers. And back in the day, the Ogden Dodgers were, okay, now they're the Ogden Raptors. And right there in Ogden, Utah, which was where I was born. But anyway, so I go in to visit my family and all that, and we go to a game. And out there, on the outsides of the walls, they've got all these jerseys out there. They got Steve Garvey, Bill Buckner, guys like that. And so it's just a walk through, the history of baseball. And that was the stadium where you could go and sit down and look over, and there's Tommy Lasorda sitting there watching the game. And so right over here, as a matter of fact, right here, I've got an autographed baseball right here from Tommy Lasorda, because he was at an Ogden Raptors game.
Yeah.
And so, that's the kind of thing that you'll always remember as a baseball fan, is that somebody like Tommy Lasorda took time out, and, he didn't mind if you went up to him, you talked to him, you engaged him a little bit, and he signed a baseball. And so, that's the kind of thing that makes people fans of the game. And so it's sitting right here. And so that's the kind of thing that you'll always remember as a baseball guy. It's somebody like that who just was, loved baseball and wanted to talk baseball and was willing to do that just for me.
That's the one thing about baseball that's different than the other sports, is that there is that downtime, like you said, Aaron. There is some ass time for sure in baseball, where you can just look around and think things can happen. Whereas hockey, there's always mayhem, and football, people are yelling and screaming and look how strong I am, blah blah blah. And basketball, there's always music playing in the background. But baseball has some downtime that allows that, and that's why I love it so much. There's some downtime where you can have interaction and have situations like Kevin had there, where and then and Vince had, where a fan can go down to the dugout. Like, other sports don't have that, and baseball's one of those sports that definitely has that. And that's what's one of the things I love about it so much, is that it's a thinking man's game. It's a thinking man's game. It's good. Aaron, what's your thoughts? What's your favorite baseball moment, whether it be, because you have a team in your hometown there?
Yeah, we have so it's the Atlantic League. So I'm from South Central Pennsylvania, and it's the Lancaster Barnstormers, who play, a variety of different. I mean, there's teams that'll move out, and then there'll be a new team that moves in almost every year, at least one. So it's kind of like a floating. I mean, the league stays afloat, but I go to games sometimes and I look around, I'm like, there might be 100 people here. Like, I don't know. But I love, I'll go to their game. I wouldn't go to their games over a major league game, but I'm about an hour and a half from Baltimore, hour and a half from Philadelphia. I'm right in the middle. So it is nice that they're 10 minutes down the road. And I love that.
12 from Seattle. I'm 12 from Colorado. So yeah, woo-hoo, whatever.
Yeah. No, it's just I get off work and I'm like, hey, I want to go to a game 10 minutes down the road. And it's still professional. Like, a lot of nearly all those guys were with teams and affiliate, they were in AAA or AA, or there's been guys that have played in the major leagues. So, and like you said, Brent, you can get so close. And in that ballpark, you can get right on top of the dugout, for $8 or whatever. You know what I mean? It's awesome. So, as a lover of baseball, but actually it's a mixed bag. I still say it's a good memory, but I went to the Orioles game. It was against your Yankees, and the Yanks are I always go down for batting practice, because I think that's one of the coolest things that you can have access to before the game. And the Yanks are taking batting practice, and I remember making eye contact with Mariano, and he throws it up, and this big guy gets in front of me, and I was probably 14, 13 years old.
You should have punched him.
I know, but I was as much as as much of a Yankee hater as I am, Mariano's special. That's just, and just seeing those guys. I always wanted to see the Yankees play, because it's you got A-Rod, you got G. It was just one of those teams, and it was just going down for batting practice. And I was actually at the Phillies 10,000th loss, so I kind of wanted them to lose, because that was a milestone. I guess
4 years.
Yeah, so those stand out to me, but just the overall environment, being in a major league stadium or even a minor league stadium, I just I'm still a kid in a candy store, because it's baseball. So
yeah, I have a fun story. I was in New York. This is in 2015, I think it was. I was by myself, and sitting in the right field in section 103, and Carlos Beltran, it was the 5th inning. Beltran threw a ball up in the stands like after warm up, and I jumped up and I caught it, and I sat down, and there, of course, there's a little girl sitting next to me. So everybody's like, "Give it to the kid, give it to the kid." And I was like, "Son of a bitch!" So I give it to the kid. So whatever, it's one of those things. They took a picture of me with the ball, and I got it down here in the tavern somewhere, and so I gave it to the kid. And then I went in to get a beer and some souvenirs or something. And when I was going down the stairs, the family that was leaving and the mom gave me back the baseball. She says, "This means way more to you than it does to me than to my kid. Here's your ball back." That to me was pretty awesome. And I still got it just over here. Yeah, it's in the case and everything else. So it was a really cool. That's what baseball means to me. Like it was like one of those moments. Baseball's still pretty cool. It was one of those things. So yeah, it's such a great game. And tomorrow we get to start watching again. We'll do 3 easy questions, boys, and get us out of here. We'll get some World Series predictions and caller night. Ready to go?
Yeah,
let's do it.
Vince, start with you. I want everybody to answer, but we'll start with Vince. Which player should be in the Hall of Fame more? Pick one. Pete Rose or Barry Bonds. You got to put one in.
Pete Rose. I think he 100% belongs in the Hall of Fame.
Kevin?
I'm going to go with Barry Bonds for one simple reason, because Pete Rose agreed to the ban for life. He agreed to it. He has no place in the Hall of Fame just because he agreed to it. So he's going to have to live with it now. And until the day he dies, he should be nowhere near that Hall of Fame.
Well, there's a statute of limitations in there somewhere.
No,
there?
he agreed.
I don't know.
Because he knew that if they investigated further, he was going to get doubly hosed. And so he just agreed to that. So keep him out.
Aaron, break the tie.
Yeah, I gotta go. I want Pete Rose in as a player, not as a manager, but as a player, because these steroids, like I know everybody was doing it, but I don't want McGuire in. I don't want Sosa in. I don't want Clemens in. I don't want all of them, and any of them. Rafael Palmeiro. It does not matter to me if your name's tainted with the steroid. If there's evidence you did steroids, I don't think you should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, let me disqualify that, because I'd rather jump off a building than support anything of a San Francisco Giant does, especially Barry Bonds. But like I said, Pete Rose agreed, so that's where I come down on it.
Aaron, you listen to our show quite a bit. You've been on, and you've been a part of this. Who is better? These guys are both before your time when they were really relevant, but you know of their history. We'll start with you, and the other two guys might break the tie or might go with it. But who is better, Nolan Ryan or Ricky Henderson?
Wow. I'll go, because I have a soft spot for pitching. I'll go Nolan Ryan just because, he was just, that guy was 40 years old throwing, faster than anybody else, and he's beating the crap out of, I forget who that was. Like he's a cheat code. Like I'll take Nolan Ryan every time.
Vince?
Man, okay. For me, it's an easy one, Nolan Ryan. But let me say it this way. I watched Nolan Ryan towards the end of his career and thought he was amazing. I recently watched the documentary on him, and I thought, my goodness, I wasn't watching him when he was with the Angels. And I just knew him as a Ranger is basically how I knew him. Yeah. The career that guy had, the length of it, and just the magnitude of it to me. And Ricky Henderson's great and very, very good, awesome. But Nolan Ryan is, to me, he is Mount Rushmore of baseball right now.
Kevin?
I'm going to have to go and agree here with Nolan Ryan. I was on the opposite side of Vince because I was in California back when him and Frank Tanana were pitching for the Angels, and I got to go
Frank
see
Tanana, holy, there's a blast in the past.
So I got to see him early in his career. I got to see him against your Yankees. He was pitching a no-hitter into the 9th inning, and it got broken up in the 9th. But the thing that really, when you get right down to Nolan Ryan, the thing that really pops out with him is when he was pitching and he hit the guy, the White Sox.
Robin Ventura.
Yeah,
Great
Robin
picture. The
Ventura,
headlock, the
and
whole bit,
Robin
giving him the
Ventura
honky tonk
thought he
man, the
was
whole
gonna
bit. Yeah.
be a bad motor scooter, and he comes out there, and Nolan Ryan just whipped his rear end. And we go to Ranger games here, and they play that before every game and get some fans fired up. No one, Ricky Henderson was great, but he had no moment like that. So Nolan Ryan's the answer to this question.
I thought Rick would get a little bit more love from you guys because Rick's an all timer, man. No,
He's
He
an
is.
all timer,
No question.
but not
more of Nolan Ryan. Yeah.
Wow. I thought I would get one of you guys to bite on that one. A little bit of Ricky love there because because you know who liked Ricky was Ricky. Ricky also liked him.
No, he definitely liked himself. No question.
Yeah. We'll finish things off with a would you rather, boys, and we'll call her a night. And before our World Series prediction from the Belly Up Super Show, brought to you by SeatGeek.com and SeatGeek app. Use promo code Belly Up at SeatGeek. You got the right one right again at Belly at SeatGeek.com. Anyways, would you rather your team win one World Series and be irrelevant for the rest of your life, or lick the jar every year and never win one? Vince, we'll start with you.
Man, I'd love a World Series win. We've already been irrelevant for, we've been relevant recently, I guess, but we can live with irrelevance, especially if we got a World Series title to hang on to. I'm at the age now where I'm ready to see that World Series title.
Aaron?
I've always been so many of my teams I lick the jar. I will take a World Series and then be elderly miserable forever than lick the jar forever and never get that is the worst thing ever to me. I'd rather be almost subpar than close and then never actually doing it. So give me the one World Series, then just fade away. That's fine. Because without a World Series, it's like, what is the point? Like, what are we doing here?
Well, ask most teams. Kevin, let's finish off with you.
All right, so I'm going to agree here because, you lick from the jar, you're going to wind up with food poisoning at some point. So that's not good. And if we discount the 2020 World Series the Dodgers won, which I don't, but if we did, I'm kind of living in that scenario because the Dodgers last won before that in 1988, which is almost like, right after Christopher Columbus, discovered America. So I'm kind of in that scenario where I got my one World Series championship. And if they never win, I'm going to have to live. I will live because they won it and it was great. And they kicked the Oakland A's rear end, who were bad. They
unprecedented that World Series.
They thought they were the rulers of society and everything else, and they walked around like that. And then the Dodgers, the little Dodgers, came in there and just kicked their butts. And that's something I can always hang my hat on. Say, hey, we beat the Oakland A's when they were at the very zenith of their power.
I have a funny story. We'll talk to you off air. Have a second off air one day, Kevin. Actually, I'll have you on the show one night.
Okay.
Mickey Hatcher and me got into a bit of a set too when he was the manager of the Great Falls Dodgers in the Pioneer League when they went down there. Me and Mickey got into it a little bit. He was not very happy with a young Brent Radlinski back in 1998, I think it was, as an umpire.
Okay.
Me and Mick got into it a little bit, and I threw Mickey out of a game. We'll talk about it. I'll have you on the show maybe next week. We'll discuss that.
Okay, I like to hear
We'll have a talk. Vince, go ahead. You want to say something?
I'm just curious. I've never heard the phrase "lick the jar" before. Is that a Canadian thing?
Yeah, I think it is.
Okay.
Licking the jar. Like looking for something way down below, and it's just not there.
Yeah.
Does that,
It's empty. I don't know.
It's an image that we don't want to have. Okay,
Yeah.
Lick the jar, and it's like I said,
It's a big jar. Put your head in. I don't know, guys. For people listening on podcast form, the hand signals don't really match. If you're watching on YouTube, which I hope you are, then you're going to get it. Anyways, boys, this is a lot of fun. Let's get out of here with on a note. Who do you got win the World Series and why? Vince, go ahead.
All right. Give me the Diamondbacks over the Orioles this year. The signing of Jordan Montgomery puts me over the top for the Diamondbacks. adding him to the rotation really gives them something that they were lacking. They've already brought in another pitcher this year that is injured currently, but Eduardo Rodriguez. So I love the talent that Arizona has as well. And I know they were there last year. Getting back is never easy. But that being said, I like that pick. So I'll go Diamondbacks over Orioles.
In a World Series that most of America won't see.
And that'll be too bad on them because it's two
No, I agree.
fun teams.
I agree. It'd
Yeah.
be great, but it's funny how that would work out. Like,
Yep,
who's playing?
right.
Yeah, because there'd be a football game. Well, yeah, great pick though. I like that pick. Aaron, go ahead.
I have this feeling that it's the Phillies' year. I don't know. They now talking about licking the jar. I mean, they get bounced by the Diamondbacks last year, which I did not see coming. Craig Kimbrell goes from one of my favorite teams to another, so goes down to Baltimore, which I'm like, oh God, I don't know. Losing, King Felix, as they call him, because that was a whole problem with the Mariners fans, but whatever. But I think I'm just having a hard time picking a team from I think the Orioles do something. But I just from the AL, give me Houston again and give me Philly again. And I think Philly wins in 6 games.
Before we get to you, Kevin, Coach Coob, he was in Lethbridge here for a long time, and he was talking about Henderson Stadium, so he knows Mickey Hatcher a little bit too. There's a little situation that going on there, rain delay. Mickey Hatcher's got but a storied tale here in Lethbridge, Alberta, and things that went on with Mickey Hatcher back in the day. Good to see that you're watching there, Coach Coob. We'll be in touch later on. He's a great guy, Coach. Long, outstanding baseball guy around Canada, actually. Kind of a legend around these parts. But anyways, Kevin, who do you got win the World Series?
Okay, so I'm going to go back to not the distant past, and I think the Dodgers are going to get there, and I think they're going to be aided by the fact that they're going to get their best shot from the Diamondbacks and the Giants and the Padres. They're going to have to battle to win the division, and so when they get to the playoffs, it won't be like they're and all of a sudden have to flip a switch. That's been their problem the last couple of years. So I think they're going to battle and be battle tested when they get there. And I think they're going to face who they faced back in 2017, Houston Astros. And I think that this time the Dodgers will win the World Series, and everybody could stop saying, well, you're posers because you won in 2020. And so we can take that away, the bad taste out of whoever's mouth, okay? Jared and whoever else hates the Dodgers because they won that World Series. But anyway, it's gonna be a great year this year. I'm looking forward to it. And Dodgers beat Houston 6 games.
It is unfair that people, like in hockey, we talk about Tampa Bay because they won that year and they get a 3/4 or a 5/8 title in the NHL, because it was a thing, like the crazy C word, like you said there, Vince, that it was one of those things. Someone had to win, and I'm surprised that people are so down on that, because I remember sitting in my backyard and having the TVs up, and I was like, thank God there's something on. And that's how this all started for me, was because of COVID. Because Deanne, she said, you got to start doing something, man. I was like, all right, I guess start a podcast, because that's what you do. It's one of those things, I guess. So I got the Philadelphia Phillies winning one, because if not this year, I think they're another one of those teams then when. I think the Dodgers are going to be pitching light, in my opinion. So I think the Dodgers beat the Phillies in the NLDS, and I think that the Phillies, because I think that they're just destined to win. They stumbled a little bit last year, a lot of it, up 3-1 in the NLCS last year. So I think they're going to find a way to win the World Series this year. It's been a long time for them. 2008, I think, was their last one. I think it was, because then they lost the Yankees in 2009. You know who won't win the World Series? The New York Yankees. I know you three are happy to hear that.
I was gonna say the Nationals. Yeah,
that's the second guarantee from the 1420 World Headquarters tonight, boys, is that the New York Yankees will not win the World Series tonight. Mark that up. You can mark that down. Go put some money down wherever you want to do. That the Yankees will not be winning a World Series this year, guys. This is a lot of fun. We'll go around the table. Tell us where we can hear your stuff, and hey, this was a lot of fun. We didn't get too in depth on some stuff, but I thought we made some laughs. We didn't cause any problems, which is different for what me and Dave usually do. But anyways, Vince, where can we hear your stuff? What do you got going on?
Hey, man, the Sports Stove podcast, it's on YouTube, on Belly Up Sports YouTube, on the Sports Stove YouTube. It's on wherever you get your audio podcasts. Right now, we're doing 3 shows a week. Sunday night is the Sports Stove Fantasy Baseball Show. Kevin joins me for that. Monday night's the Sports Stove Local Hour covering Eastern Kentucky University. We got college athletes on, our coaches on every week. And then Wednesday night, my dad joins me at 8 o'clock, and we just talk general sports, NFL, Major League Baseball, NASCAR, college basketball, stuff like that as well. And so you can find us around. We're plenty of places.
It's everywhere, and I know it's all about got going on. Kevin, what do you got going on?
Well, you can always go to the Belly Up Fantasy website, and I've got 2 articles that are out there almost simultaneously, because we had our fantasy draft, as you're well aware, Brent, and I reviewed the first round of that draft, and so that's out there. And also, I wrote an article because we're on ESPN, and if you're on ESPN in the fantasy world, last weekend's games count. Doesn't matter when you drafted, doesn't matter what you try and do, those games are going to count, and that's all there is to it. And you can only use 10 pitchers this week. So I thought, well, people, because usually 12. And so I put out an article so that people could be aware of this. And so if you took Yamamoto and got negative 12 fantasy points, you knew it was coming before it happened. So I've got that out there. And as Vince said, him and I have got the show that we do every Sunday night. So, and also I got an article out there about the first waiver pickups, even before the season started. That's out there right now. So I should mention that. And so they're out there on Belly Up Fantasy Live, the website. Get out there. And I have to say, I just want to say one thing, Vince, because you know who plays here tomorrow? The Cubs play here against the Texas Rangers, and I'll be able to see if this curse manifests itself right out of the So I'm looking forward to see if that happens right from the opening gun.
I said somewhere a while ago, and you say enough crap and something's going to stick to the wall. I guess it's one of those things you guys all know as podcasters and writers and stuff that you hope. I said Yamamoto's going to be a bust, but I actually thought that for some reason, and I still believe that for some reason. His first start, like you said, Kevin, wasn't great and everything else, and that's all going to turn out for him, because that's a lot of dough to not to be. Ooh.
Yeah, and Vince,
yeah.
Vince and I were not convinced about him when we first started doing our rankings. We weren't, I wanted to be. I'm a Dodger guy, of course, but I'm concerned.
Yeah, I needed to see something.
Don't do what they need to do it because Yamamoto wasn't all that.
Anyways, Aaron, what do you got going on? What's happening? You go through co-hosts like I used to go through girlfriends back in the day. What's going on there?
No.
I don't picture, or I don't think of myself as someone that's hard to work with, but I guess my last co-host, I didn't upload.
Like Costanza.
I didn't upload TikToks in the timely fashion that he wanted, so he threw me to the wolves again. So I mean, whoever wants to collab with me, you can check me out at Brutally Honest without the T, so just Brutally Honest on Twitter. We can do a show, schedule a show. I'm going to just start. I've said it a million times. I'm guilty of it, and I haven't done it, but I'm going to do it. Just do solo shows because until I find somebody that wants to co-host for, maybe 6 months and then they'll quit, I'm just going to do it myself. And then, like I said, my messages are always open. My inbox is there. So whoever wants to collab, but we're on Spotify. I haven't been uploading because I just got kind of kicked down to the ground again, but we'll bounce back, be better than ever somehow, some way. And I'm excited for baseball, excited for the NFL draft. That's a long way away, but regardless, we'll keep trucking forward. If it's me or if it's me and somebody else, cool. But just Brutally Honest Sports. That's it.
It's guys, this was a lot of fun. Talking baseball is always great, and it's Christmas Eve tonight. Get some sleep tonight
Right.
because we'll be up bright and early to watch the games tomorrow and all weekend long. Have a happy Easter as well, and everything
That's
else
right.
going on here because it's a lot of fun doing this, and we'll have to get up maybe before the All-Star break. We'll get something going and do this again because this was a lot of fun. And talking baseball is always a great thing. It's easy, and the memories come flooding back of things that you thought you forgot about, but then they pop in, and baseball has that romanticism for it. So, Kevin, Vince, Aaron, thank you very much for joining me tonight on the Belly Up. Belly Up. What do we call it? The Belly Up Super Show. Christmas Eve for the guys. Opening night Eve and everything else. So make sure you guys
Ho, ho, ho.
take care, comb your hair, and everything else. And remember, it doesn't matter where you are; it's who you're with. We'll talk to you guys later. Have a good night, folks. And yeah, that's it. I always screwed that up. There we go. It's twice.